Good afternoon, Brian Farr here, VP Stock Analytics with Stock Dads. Today is Tuesday, January the 9th. Well, if you paid attention to the indices, you'd probably think today was just kind of boring. A little bit of an opposite day compared to yesterday, where the market just went on an absolute tear, gaining back some of those losses from last week. But yeah, today a little bit more of consolidation compared to yesterday, where we had a lower dollar, lower yields, much lower crude oil. Flip that around. Today we had slightly higher yields back above that 4% mark. Crude oil up 2%, and we even had a slight increase there on the dollar. But you know what? Individual names, specifically the Magnificent Seven, and mostly NVIDIA, which remains the king of the day, had a nice push yet again for round two for NVIDIA, which we profited nicely off of that. So let's get into it. This is your daily squeeze. All right, a few things to go over here. Starting off with the SPY, the SPY down 0.15%. Nothing to really write home about. Definitely tight consolidation today after yesterday's big move, after erasing most of the gains from last week, as the market gets ready to uh, really to prepare itself for that inflation data reading on Thursday, which will be the key market driver for the end of the week, as well as bank earnings. But yeah, nothing too much to see here, just a little bit of a cool down. SPY bounced off the daily 21 EMA yesterday. Structure remains intact. Momentum looks good. Is by the dip back? I mean, this looks pretty darn good to me. But like I said, we got that catalyst going into uh, Thursday. We got not much going on tomorrow as far as the economic data goes. But the key thing that will be on the watch is the Bitcoin ETF. The SEC will be looking out to drop that news tomorrow as far as the spot ETF goes. Bitcoin did hit a high of 48,500 today, cooled off a little bit, maybe just catching its breath here as it broke out of that bullish pennant yesterday. And yeah, things look to be pretty good here. Now, the key question is, what if there is a denial and we don't get that spot ETF? We always want to be prepared for, the unknown, and especially if things do not go the way that consumers and investors expect. Well, for me is if they do not approve, I think structure still kind of holds steady. We can see that the moving averages are all pointing in a positive direction. They're all sloping higher. Momentum looks good, although if there is negative news, that could definitely impact the shorter term momentum and structures. But for the most part, if we do pull back on Bitcoin, I'm looking for a move back down to the 40K area, which is where the 50-day simple moving average is, as well as price support. So if things do not go the right way for Bitcoin bulls, then I do expect 40K to hold up as support. Now, if we do get the approval for that spot Bitcoin ETF, then I am looking for a push into about 50K to start out with. And of course, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on Coinbase, which didn't do anything today lower. I'm looking for that breakout above 161.28 for Coinbase. And Mara, I'm looking for a breakout move here above 26.88, as you can see here on the chart. So keep an eye on that. In other news, we did get some Hewlett Packard AI involvement news. HPE, a little interesting newsprint today with HPE in talks. The Wall Street Journal's reported that HPE is in talks to acquire Juniper Networks JNPR for around $13 billion, and this is an attempt to gain a stronger foothold within the AI sector, and that transaction could be processed this week. So keep an eye on that. Now, the interesting thing is HPE obviously down on that news. That's kind of typical with some of these buyouts. Usually the buyer goes down and the buyee goes up. Uh, so yeah, HPE, the interesting part here with HPE is that, HPE has already uh, have seen lower margins and market cap. So the fact that they're spending this much money on this acquisition, this is a pretty big bite in general. And this is based upon their market cap and also brings in a hefty amount of debt for HPE. So it's a big bet, and investors definitely have some uh, right to be a little concerned here, and rightfully so. Even on the technical side, you have large volume on this drop down, and you also have a close below the key moving averages, the 50 as well as the 200 simple moving average. And we always use that 200 simple moving average to gauge general market sentiment as like your bullish bearish equator, and the fact that it's closing back below the 200 SMA doesn't really bode too well from a technical analysis standpoint. So there could be further downside with this transaction. But if you look at the Juniper chart here, you can see that JNPR, they got earnings coming up at the end of the month, and you had this big rally today, gap up, closed at the $30 mark yesterday and opened up at about the 37, 36 level. So, like I said, JNPR getting the best benefit off of that deal for now. Now, let's turn our attention back to the main news player this week, and that is Boeing. More news of loose bolts from United Airlines and Alaska Airlines. And right now, the positive thing is, and we've talked about this before, is that no one was injured. No one was there was no casualties. So that is, at first and foremost, the best thing, that no one was hurt and no one died due to the event. It could have been a lot worse if they were at cruising altitude, and as morbid as it sounds, they weren't at cruising altitude, and the seat belts were still in use at this time, so they hadn't got to a spot where you can just move around. It could have been a lot worse when you think about it. So Boeing here, from a technical standpoint, it's doing its best to maintain the 50 simple moving average, which is this blue line here. Granted, it closed below the 50 simple. If there is further weakness here in the coming days or so, I do anticipate a move to retest the daily 200 simple moving average and retrace further. That would be at 214 level for Boeing. But we always say that it's Boeing is one of those names where you either love it or you hate it. And right now it's a headwind. They're doing the right things now and working with the FAA to fix those potential issues with the MAX 9. And the FAA says every single 737 MAX 9 will remain grounded, especially if they have a plug door on the aircraft. And they'll be grounded until they have gone through every single one of those planes and gone through their guidelines to clear those safety issues. So good for them to work swiftly and get this done before maybe any other potential issues. So I do applaud them for that. But as we see, Boeing, they have a lot of orders coming through. They got a lot of deliveries to make. So right now, just a little bit of a headwind, a speed bump here, so to speak. But from a technical standpoint, and just be a little bit careful as it sits around the daily 50 simple moving average. Now, let's get back to the fun stuff here. Let's talk about NVIDIA. NVIDIA, we have been talking about this for a few weeks. We got in this position. We took the 550 calls that expired next week. We had to do some average down work because we got in early, but the play played out. We had strong structure. We were holding the daily 50. Key moving averages were still positively structured, and momentum was starting to kick into gear. So it was definitely a nice conviction trade for me, and we took 100% on this play. It was fantastic. Our average was 425. We took them all the way up to $8.50. As you can see here on those purple lines, we hit target 2 on those fib extension targets based on the swing low, swing high, swing low fib extension targets. You can also use the Darvis box here for even further targets. When we're talking about high breakouts, lifetime high breakouts, especially coming out of a Darvis box, you can use that range. And NVIDIA's been in about a 100-point range between 400 and 500. So your upper end target would be about that 600 per share mark. So congrats to any NVIDIA longs out there. Just an amazing chart. They announced new products yesterday. And yeah, big volume today. Good continuation move today. It was not a one and done. And she did pull back off the highs later on this afternoon. But all in all, fantastic trade. Happy to be a part of it. Yeah, let's get into a few plays that I am looking at. Let's start out with Disney. Disney, a little quiet compared to the rest of the market as it tries to hold on to this daily 200 simple moving average. It just can't seem to close and push above 92. If it gets above 92, that's where I'm interested in getting into a long position and uh, work all the way up to about the 94, 95 area. But now I'm looking at this as a possible short, especially if we have any broad-based market weakness in the coming days, especially after that CPI print on Thursday. If we start to lose this daily 200 simple at about the 89.50 level, then yeah, I'm looking to short this thing back at price support down here at about 87. So keep an eye on that for a possible short play. Another play that I am definitely keeping my eye on is Microsoft. And just in general, the Magnificent Seven. Magnificent Seven performed pretty well today, and even Netflix. Netflix had a downgrade this morning by Citigroup, just because Citigroup, thinks that they have, just outrun itself, and other things, of course. But Microsoft here, I know there's a lot of lines here, but if Microsoft can clear 376, 377, that opens the door up to about 380 and then 384. As you can see, structure remains pretty darn well. We've held the daily 50. And we have also held this 366.78 mark, which was the prior lifetime high. So I'm still in some calls there. I'm running a little bit out of time. But if we do get that breakout, I will look to average down and maybe even roll them out. We'll see what transpires here. But as long as it's holding structure, it looks good to me. The daily 50 is the key here for Microsoft, as well as that 366.78. So be on the lookout for Microsoft in the coming days or so, as long as that continues to hold up. One of the questions that I did get was on AMD, and I thought that brought up an interesting point because NVIDIA has had a nice run. Why not take a look at AMD? Now, the AMD chart does look pretty good. It's not lifetime highs like NVIDIA, but as we can see here, AMD had a nice little push to 151 off the 94.50 lows. Pretty great move there over the past month or so. We did get a slight pullback to the 21 EMA, even held prior resistance at that 132.83 swing high. Bounced off of that. That would have been a fantastic buy if you bought down here at the 133 mark, and you're already pushing back at the 151. Now, is this a double top or is it up to something even bigger? Well, we're not too sure yet. It's kind of a wait and see matter. If we break above 151.05 or just 151, then sure, this can continue to push higher. But we also want the if this then that approach. Now, the other side of that spectrum is I don't really want to short AMD here. I want to short AMD if it breaks back below that prior resistance level, now acting as support, which would be the 132.83 mark. So I'm good to short it if we break below that 132.83. That 50 simple moving average should catch up to that level within the coming days, and that will also provide a key dynamic area and confluence there at that 132.83. If we get a rug pull of some sort, or if the market decides to cool off in that manner, I'll be looking to short that. But as it sits, if it breaks above 151, then yeah, my target is going to be about what is that? 19 points, so 160 to oh, here we go. I already got it labeled out there. Yeah, 162 to 168, respectively. So if AMD wants to break out, those are going to be my overhead targets. But let's see. In other news, Unity cut 25% of its workforce. Nat Gas, don't sleep on it, up 12% today. So take a look at some of your Nat Gas symbols. So yeah, pretty good day, especially for NVIDIA. I did not have any day trades today. I've been having some connectivity issues, but I believe we should be resolved at this point. Looks like some towers were down, but other than that, we had some tornado warnings earlier. That was fun. All right. Good job today, everybody. Congrats, NVIDIA longs. CPI coming up on Thursday. Should be a quiet day tomorrow as far as the economic calendar goes, and all eyes are going to be on that inflation report. So, got a lot of good stuff there. Disney, look for shorts. Microsoft looking for a long. Visa, PDD, Jets, Meta, and Microsoft all look great for possible long scenario. PDD had a nice close today. Let's see if we can get some follow through tomorrow. That could be a nice little day trade. Looking for a break above 151.60 for a push towards 154.12. All right, I will leave you guys with that. Y'all have a great evening, and I will see you guys later. Take care.